Those in favor.
The resource envelope for the 2022-2023 financial year has increased by 3.3 trillion shillings from 44.7 trillion in this financial year to 48.1 trillion shillings. The increment is attributed to, among others, the anticipated increase in the revenue collection by over 2 trillion shillings.
I'm confident that this budget for financial year 2022-2023 will mark the beginning of the recovery of this economy.
The budget will be financed by domestic revenue of 25,789 billion, domestic borrowing of 12,973 billion, external borrowing of 7,165 billion, grants of 2,168 billion, and revolving fund of 34 billion shillings. These resources will be shared amongst ministries, departments and agencies, with human capital development receiving 8,740 billion, governance and security 7,030 billion shillings, integrated transport and infrastructure 4,171 billion shillings, sustainable energy development 1,606 billion, agro-industrialization 1,269 billion, legislation and oversight 724 billion, tourism 197 billion, administration of justice 393 billion, among others.
Additional funding has also been provided for the development of Mbale and Kapeka industrial parks in line with the increased focus on the industrialization drive.
Of course, the sector where I am in education and sports, we are going to have a number of community schools grant-aided. These are schools which are non-profit making, helping our communities, especially in sub-counties without secondary schools. And now they're going to be grant-aided.
How do you allocate 9 billion to a regional referral hospital, which is catering for 3 countries? You know, Arua Regional Referral Hospital treats patients from Congo, we treat patients from South Sudan, and this, 9 billion, what will it do?
We've talked, but they've not appropriated money to take care of the salaries of the medics who were abruptly terminated for the next financial year. So much as the president's letter is there, much as the directive is there, they can't be employed. We shall need a supplementary budget to keep them in employment.
The Parish Development Model, touted by government as a drive of income to the 39% households still outside the money economy, has been allocated 1 trillion shillings, with each parish sharing 100 million shillings.
Comprehensive rollout of the Parish Development Model, 1 trillion has been provided to ensure that each parish in the country, is provided with access to 100 million.
The committee thought, before we build the capacity of the parishes to develop their own quality seedlings, let's have UCDA continue doing their work. And a token allocation was provided for such.
The government scientists have been allocated 495 billion for salary enhancement. However, the House at the Committee of Supply rejected proposals from the opposition, including slashing budgets for the State House, the Office of the President, construction of roads in Congo, among others, to finance unfunded priorities.
Instead of the cost being footed by the budget of the East African community, the tax revenue of Ugandans is being used to deprive them of better infrastructure in their own country. This is akin to colonialism.
This money, about 580 billion saved under State House, should then be allocated to the health sector to finance unfunded priorities.
Concerns were also raised about the widening public debt, which stood at 73 trillion shillings as of December 2021. 18 trillion shillings of the next budget will be realized through domestic and external borrowing.
There are a lot of loans on the balance sheet which have not been used. Loans and grants. I think there is a quick need to audit these loans and grants.
If there is no money, you don't go for the loan for the sake. You go for it after you have done feasibility study. If it's construction, have land, so that the disbursement occur immediately, and we realize and we realize returns.
The past budget will come into force starting 1st July 2022. Herbert Ziwa, NTV at Parliament.